about 90% of what single men earn, and we're looking at ages 25 to 54. So that's kind of an interesting thing. But we can see that the incomes of married couples are coming closer. And one last thing to look at here. I found this interesting. You might as well. How much more or less do wives make than their husbands? We're looking at the median pay ratio by husband's occupation. So women who are married to dentists earn a lot less, right? That's 60% less. Earn a lot less than their dentist husbands. Women who are married to chief executives or legislators, lawyers, civil engineers, and so forth, firefighters, women who are married to registered nurses, women who are married to construction workers, and so forth. Equal pay, women who are married to cooks, fast food workers, or librarians, or maids, or house cleaners, and then women who are married to waiters or waitresses earn more. Women who are married to bartenders earn more than their husbands, and so forth. So it's kind of an interesting look at earnings based on marriage. So homogamy is a tendency. We tend to marry people who are like us, and this is giving us data in terms of social class. So this notion of the woman marrying up the social class ladder, does it happen? Absolutely. Is it common? Absolutely not. We tend to marry people who are similar to us in terms of those social variables. I would also put age as another another homogamous tendency. We tend to marry people who are close to us in age. Is that always true? No. Remember, we're talking about general patterns, not absolute patterns. Then there's the matching hypothesis. The matching hypothesis posits that we tend to marry people who are equally physically attractive. Which is kind of an interesting thing. We tend to marry those who are equally physically attractive. I was once had a person, a colleague, a new colleague of mine, who accused me, maybe that's too strong a phrase, who insinuated, let's say, that my wife must be a lot more physically attractive than me, that I married up in a sense, which is true. And she asked me when I first met her, did I have pictures of my children? Because I told her I had 3 children, and I did. In those days, we used to carry pictures in our wallets. So I showed her my 3 children, and she said, and I'm quoting, she said, "Oh, you have beautiful children. You must have a very attractive wife." Which would, of course, mean that she's the reason why I have the beautiful children. In any event, the matching hypothesis posits that people marry others who are physically attractive. I've never seen any data supporting this or refuting it. I'm just reporting it to you as something that you do see in sociology. Observe it yourself. Do you think that that's true? And then there's social exchange theory. Social exchange theory posits that we, in the process of mate selection, do it in a very rational, conscious way. That is to say, we do this cost-benefit analysis. So before we propose marriage or accept a marriage proposal, we weigh the costs and benefits of marrying that person. There's a whole bunch of things to be considered. It's not strictly financial. Every relationship has its costs. Every relationship has its benefits. The idea being, if you think the benefits of marrying a person will outweigh the costs of marrying that person, you become more likely to propose or to accept the proposal. If you think not, then you become less likely to propose or to accept the proposal. I will tell you this. One of the things that we are starting to see now, and I'm starting to see some discussion of it in the literature, is student debt is becoming a factor in the cost-benefit analysis. If you have very little student debt or no student debt, would you be willing to marry someone who had significant student debt? Because that's going to place limits on your ability to get credit as a couple. It's going to limit your spouse's disposable income, as they have to spend more to repay their loans and so forth. So something that typically is not discussed when discussing the student loan crisis is the impact that it's having on these kinds of marriage decisions, on how attractive you are as a potential marriage partner is in part going to be dependent upon the level of student debt that you have and your ability to finance that debt. That's the point that's made here. The public is divided over the value of marriage for society. Again, I don't want to get too much into marriage because that's what you guys did your research on. But one of the things I'm sure you've seen in your research is that the marriage rate is declining. People are postponing marriage, postponing having children, maybe even putting off marriage altogether, and putting off having children altogether. When the public is asked whether or not, which of these choices, what do they think? They say 46% that society is better off if marriage and children are a priority, as they were in the through the 1960s, certainly. Or others say that society is just as well off if people have other priorities, 50%. So we have this split certainly about the importance of marriage and family. And remember, I'm sure you saw this in your research, increasingly cohabitating couples are having children. So they're not married, but they're still procreating. All right, these are the what you looked at in your research. I look forward to reading your research papers. And now I'm going to give you another opportunity. This will be your 8th opportunity to earn extra credit. Here's the phrase to send to me in an email. It's from Seinfeld. He took it out. So send that to me in an email. Google it. You might find it somewhat funny. All right, so we're not going to go through this because you have looked at this extensively. All right, so we're gonna end this here. There's one more thing I want to show you. This. If you're interested, I know a number of you put down as career goals things having to do with children, either in psychology or in early childhood education and so forth. This website, childstats.gov, contains a host of aggregate data about children in the United States. What is at this site is a collection of all the various government reports on children, and it kind of puts the data all together into a single report that comes out annually. You can look at it here. gives you data about, if you look, I'm looking at the left, demographic background, family and social environment, economic circumstances, healthcare, physical environment and safety, behavior, education, and health. So if you're interested in research on children, this is a very good place to start. Child stats. All right, we're going to stop this here. Stay well, and we have one more topic. That topic is healthcare. I'm just want to give you a heads up here. There are two films that you must watch having to do with healthcare. One of them I have a link to in the lecture outline that's online. That's the one that's titled Sick Around the World. That's a PBS documentary that runs about an hour. The other is a film, a Michael Moore film titled Sicko. I had a link to a free version of it online, and I checked it the other day, and it's no longer up. You might have to rent that from Amazon or Netflix. I know you can rent it from Amazon, I think for $3, and you can have it for 48 hours. It's a 2-hour movie. You must watch that film. The healthcare lecture that I'm going to be putting up for you is really based on what's in that film. So as soon as you get a chance to watch Sicko, you should do so. There's a worksheet that's in your content folder that goes along with it. So when you're watching the film, you should have that out. I'm going to go over that next time, but if you want to watch it in advance, if you have the time, and I think a lot of us have a lot of time on our hands now, you might want to do that. In any event, stay well, and I'll be back with another lecture next time.